Hello, my darling. I hope you are well and welcome to episode 4 of the Ep4 podcast. It is my hope and desire that by the end of this episode, you will leave enlightened, enriched, and excited to step into the world as the best version of yourself. A disclaimer before we get started for this episode and all other episodes really on this podcast is to really practice discernment. Be very in tune with yourself to know what resonates with you and take that. Whatever doesn't resonate with you, leave it for someone else. It's not everything that I share or teach that will apply to you. And that's because we are all at different stages in our journey. We are all on different life paths, right? So to the extent that you can, really lean in and take what speaks to your soul and leave the rest for others. In today's topic, I want us to talk about the fact that you are exactly where you need to be right now in your journey. Nothing has gone wrong. Everything has gone right. There are no mistakes and there is no failure. Sit with that a little bit. You are exactly where you need to be in your journey. Nothing has gone wrong. I know it's uncomfortable, especially when you look at all the things that you feel could have gone right, could have been different, either from what you did or from what people did to you. But let me tell you, when you look at everything and at your journey and all those little things that come to mind, and some of them are big, and you know and accept that it's actually part of the landscape of your life, and you can only connect the dots looking backwards and never looking forward, right? So there are no mistakes. There is no failure. I do find that a lot of us live in the fear of failure. We don't try new things. We don't implement our ideas. We don't go for our dreams and desires because what if we fail? And I say that with confidence because that used to be me for a very, very long time. You know, I'd have journals full of ideas, full of things that I want to do. But to actually do it came with a level of anxiety. And when I really looked deep, it was because of the fear of failure. And once you release that, and once you accept and know that actually maybe fear of failure is an illusion and maybe it's a distraction, maybe I go for these things, that comes with an immense amount of anticipation for the future. It comes with an immense amount of relief and peace. What it does is that it releases you from pressure, right? Both self-inflicted pressure as well as that has been inflicted by external factors, be it society or societal norms, be it family, be it the economy, your workplace, your boss, and so on and so forth. So I need you to know that you are exactly where you need to be for the lessons that your soul require you to learn right now. Right? It is my belief and really my knowledge that when your soul comes forth into this world and into this time-space reality, it really came with specific intentions and specific lessons that it wanted to learn. And that's why we are born in the families that we're born in. That's why we're born in the countries that we're born in the environments that we are in, a time and era that we are born in, right? In the body that we born in. There's no mistakes there. It's all by design, right? It's all by design. It's what the creator intended. It's what your soul intended. And so that co-creation manifests in the life that you've had and how you came forth. So the soul's intention could be, maybe you want to learn how to love yourself. Maybe your soul wants you to learn how to love yourself regardless of how you look, regardless of where you were born, regardless of not having a flat stomach. And maybe your soul wants you to build confidence that comes from within. Maybe, your soul really wants you to appreciate the simple things in life. So there's many reasons or many lessons that you may have intended to learn when you came forth. And that's why I say it really changes how you look at failure when you have that knowledge. I'll share a little bit of a personal story, as I always do, as I tend to do on this podcast. And I'm sure, by episode 10, you'll be knowing all about my inner world. But from a very young age, I've always been beauty conscious. Even when I was a kid, my mom took very good care that I looked prim and proper all the time. I'd come back from school and she would make sure that I freshen up, I'm clean, and I'm looking prim and proper. And now, I don't have personal full recollection of all of this, but I remember there used to be a gogo who lived in the front opposite of our house. Bless her soul, and may her soul rest in peace. And she used to retell this story to me all the time about how my mom took very good care of me, how my mom makes sure that I always, look good as a kid. So that's just something that I grew up being conscious of. And so something life changing really happened to me when I was about 14, 15 years, in that my spinal cord began to bend, right? No, like literally bend. I started experiencing curvature of the spine, also known as scoliosis. And oh my word, the shock and the trauma to my system was incredible. Initially, I thought, no one would notice. I'm sure no one can see this. And I just moved on with my life. I remember this one day very distinctively. We were at school, Saturday school, changing classes, and I was wearing this tight Billabong t-shirt, orange. I remember it very well. And one of my friends, was walking behind me, and she shouted, "Oh my word, you unalele nkoro," which just means you've got a hunchback, right? And let me tell you, I thought like, can the world open and I disappear? Because all of a sudden I realized this thing that's happening to me and my back is actually visible to everyone else, and that was damaging to my confidence, given the background that I've given you. And also as a teenager, I mean, that's a time where we're all becoming very conscious about how we look, our bodies are changing. But I seem to have this extra little thing that, my friends were not experiencing. So what was up with that? So in that moment, I felt disabled. I felt mocked, even though I was 100% able-bodied, But at the time, it really just felt like, can the world end? And I just turned around, I laughed it off, and I moved on. But really, it left a scar in my heart, in my head, and in just the way I would move forward from that day. I mean, it changed the way I dressed. It changed the way I perceived beauty. It shaped how I would experience just moving about the world. I became very conscious, and there is a point to the story. I'm getting to it. So I mean, you can imagine I'm painting the picture as a teenager, the horror that came with that experience. And with time, it became worse and worse. And I started wearing oversized shirts. I started just trying to hide this thing that was happening to me. So I share the story to say that I would later find out that really my soul wanted me to learn to have confidence and to love self, regardless of the exterior, regardless of how I looked, regardless of what people, thought about me, regardless of how I was perceived. My soul really wanted me to learn to be confident in who I am, to be confident in my personality, to be confident because of the gifts and talents that I had, to really be confident because of the intangible. So when I say it is all just lessons, I'm really not trying to be poetic or cute or overly simplistic, right? But it is truly what I believe. I believe that all the mistakes, or what we see as mistakes, and all the things that we perceive as having gone wrong, they carry lessons with them. So nothing has gone wrong. All is well. It is all but lessons. So a question you may ask is, like, how did you know that that was the lesson you had to learn, or your soul wanted to learn, to know the lesson? It came much later in life, when I connected to my inner world, when I connected to my higher self. And I literally asked myself the question, what did this condition come to teach me? And I need you to know that you too, also have the answers, all the answers you'll ever need. And that you are powerful beyond measure. I need you to know that you are born with an internal GPS, that you're born with an internal campus. You just have a knowing. You are connected to infinite intelligence. Some may refer to it as spirit, or your inner being, your higher self. I'm not so fixated on what you call it, but in you knowing that you have it. And it would behoove you really to connect with that part of you, to ask yourself the difficult questions. And it's quite normal, and understandable to feel like, I don't know that I have all the answers, or to have a sense of doubt, or struggle to accept, the point that I'm driving across. And this normally happens when you no longer trust yourself, right? When you've let yourself down more times than you can count, where you feel like you've made a lot of wrong decisions. So you'd rather lean to someone else to make the decisions for you. I mean, there's people who struggle to even choose a meal on the menu. They'd rather wait for the next person to choose, and then they'll say, yeah, even me, I'll have the same thing. You know what I mean? Because you've just depleted or eroded that sense of trust in self. And sometimes it's that you were just not raised to make your own decisions. Sometimes it's that maybe you grew up in an environment where your guardians or parents, or elders, insisted on making decisions on your behalf. Maybe you just never felt empowered enough to make decisions. It could also be that. So I need you to start a new journey. I need you to forgive yourself and rebuild the trust in self. Will it be easy? No. It won't be easy, but you gotta do it, because I'm telling you, it's so much more delicious on the other side. It saves you a lot of anxiety over, am I making the right decisions? Am I not? It saves you a lot of second guessing yourself. It saves you a lot of time in consulting on every little thing that you need to decide on. And the reality is that you've given other people more chances than you've given yourself. You've given people who've sabotaged you more chances. You've given people who've betrayed you more chances than you've given yourself. And so it's time, my love. It's time to bet on you. It's time to give yourself another chance. It's time to rebuild trust in self and begin on a new slate. And so how do you do that? How do you begin on a new slate? How do you begin to rebuild trust in self? And you start with the mirror work. At least that's how I started, and I imagine there's many ways to go about it, but really I can only share from my own experience and from my own perspective. Mirror work is huge. You literally, it's nothing complicated. You literally get in a room and look at the mirror. You look yourself in the mirror and you apologize. I'm sorry that I've not listened to you. I'm sorry that I overrode your voice with other people's opinions. I now know that their opinions are from their own vantage point. Their opinions are from their own point of view. And they're from their own lived life experiences, right? You tell yourself, I'm now ready to value your opinion over anyone else's. I promise to ask you first before I ask anyone else. You literally apologize to yourself. I'm sorry and I love you. And I share a lot of, the idea of mirror work with a lot of people. And one of my friends said to me, you make it sound like it's so easy. I can't even look at myself in the mirror for that long. I rush through it. And it's okay. Just go as far as you can go. I always say go at your own pace. If all you can do is just look in the mirror and cry, do that. And then tomorrow, go 1% more. But it has to be done. You need to start looking at yourself, not just at the exterior, not just at the makeup and the hair, but really take a deep look inside and almost wanting to see that inner being, almost wanting to connect with that inner child and connecting to your higher self. And so that's how I would start, and that's how I started. And then you start making yourself small promises. When you say that you're going to do something, you actually do it. You actually follow through with it. And don't start with grand gestures and grand challenges like 75-day challenges and 30-day this, and I'm not going to eat this for. No. Start with daily small promises to yourself, because you can do that, and you can begin to subconsciously build that trust up again. And before you know it, you look back and you actually realize you flexed your trust muscle. You look back and you realize, actually, I feel safe to make this decision. And so that's my message in this podcast, to really say, all is well. Nothing has gone wrong. It is all but lessons. And when you begin to look at life in that way, when you begin to navigate your journey in that way, after you've done the work of forgiving yourself and beginning anew and rebuilding, I promise you there's a sense of looking forward to life. There's a sense of looking to the future with no anxiety, or at least with less anxiety than you did before. There's a sense of freedom that comes with it. There's a sense of peace to know that, you know what, I actually, over and above trusting myself, I trust life. I feel supported by life. I trust that the Creator brought me here and is still with me and is still protecting me. I trust that there's a higher force that will make sure that things are always working out for you, for me, so it really builds up from trust of self to trust of the universe, to trust of life, to trust of experiences. You know what I mean? And then you just flow with ease. And that has really been my experience, to trust that things will always work out for me, and that things are working out for me. From something as simple as finding a parking spot every single time I walk into the market, which actually is my experience, because I was like, yeah, no, I like to park closer to the door. So every time I drive in here, there will be a spot. And that's literally always the case, And it may seem like a simple example, but that's where you start. And then you start trusting that I'll always have the financials to carry myself and to support myself, to big things like that, to trusting that, when I drive, I'll be protected, to trusting that, I will get the promotion that I'm looking for. And that's a big part then of manifestation. So manifestation is not just writing down your goals and, praying on them and then waiting. A big part of it, is releasing blockages. And this is one of the blockages that's going to help you to manifest the life of your dreams. From big to small, right? So start by building or rebuilding the trust in self, and that's on self-love. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to like it, to share it. Do be sure to follow me on TikTok and Instagram, Mpoma Ponya Live. And I'd really appreciate your support. If this podcast is changing your life or your journey in any small or big way, be sure to click the support podcast link in the description box, and send through your gratuity or tips, as it were. And so that I can continue to produce this content and make time to share my thoughts and my experiences with you. I hope this was helpful to yourself, and I'm sending you all my love and kisses. Mwah.